Okay, hello, welcome
Hello.
back to our Pims Friday, Pims and Appframe Fridays.
Yes.
Today we have a guest with us today, but first, latest release, November release of both Pims and Appframe, smoother than ever through
Yes.
our new AF deployer, from dev to stage.
Okay, let's try again. We are now connected to the YouTube backup streaming server.
Yes, yeah.
It's
We
all
have
YouTube's fault, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So we are here today with Trygve. He is the product manager for the Pims workflow engine, and there has been a good upgrade of the workflow engine lately. For example, the latest Bootstrap version, some layout improvements, some more flexibility in the layout, and also the possibility to design workflows using the browser. And in this session, Trygve will explain more about this and how one upgrades to the very latest engine. Okay, Trygve.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, that's good. Okay, as Johnny said, I'm going to take you through the process of upgrading your workflows to the latest engine. So we'll start off by the workflow designer being available on web. So we'll be using it on web instead now. Obviously, you can still use the client in the Windows client to upgrade and manage your workflows. In here, you'll have a list of all existing workflows. You can add new ones and so on. For today, we're going to go to the technical queries and start off here. And the first thing you want to do when you're going to start to upgrade your workflow is go to controls. So most of the controls have been changed to the latest versions. One of these is typically the HTML control, which have now been replaced with a new third-party control. So you're going to need to change the control type. For grids, we have changed to the latest version of the grid, which then means you're going to need to change the control type here as well. And you're going to need to add and change your component config code here. This is an example of how it could look, and when you're changing your own grids, I just suggest going in and looking at an upgraded workflow for how it should be looking. Furthermore, the grids are now supporting the multiple in a better way. So this means, as an example for this tag number in technical queries, it's in multiple sections in the form. And previously we had one data source for each section we showed the control. Now we have reduced that to only being one data source, and as long as that data source has step number, it's handled by the workflow engine. So we can reduce the required data sources, and we can also reduce the amount of client-side script needed in our articles. So if I go to the risk, we'll have a look at buttons, which is also a new control. Both of these buttons used to be custom controls, and now instead we can declare them in the designer here, add the component config to achieve the same thing that we previously had to do through custom controls. Another thing that you would need to look at is the lookups. So we are now using the latest lookup controls from Appframe, and you're also going to need to update your component config here, especially for the fields like this one, the confidentiality, where we store the ID, but we display a description. So it's not enough to just set the description field out in the data display field. You're also going to need to make sure your component config has a display configured. Date is another control. If you need or require a special format, you apply it through the component config. If you have any custom controls that you use on your workflow, you're obviously going to need to upgrade those as well. In some instances, it might be possible to now utilize just the grid and use component config. The next step after you've done your controls is to go into the workflow types revision. And the first thing you want to do here is go to settings. In settings, we now have a new option to assign a layout. The default layout is form, and this mimics how the workflows have been looking all along. But if you have a client that has some special needs in terms of how they want their specific layout, you can design your own set of layout in CSS files in the background and create it in here. We also made a decision in our upgrade to go away from showing the workflow process diagram in step 1. And this also triggered that we needed to realign all our steps. This is done through script, and we have script to manipulate the workflows table and also manipulate the module-specific tables for technical queries, such as comments and attachments. If you have a need for any of these scripts, you can reach out to me or Hans-Vik Jacobsen. To set the link to the process image, you set it in here, and it now becomes available in the menu. And instead, it opens up as a dialog. We have also moved the log up into the menu. So instead of previously being on the right pane here, you now access it from the menu here. After you've done all of these things, the next thing is to start your upgrade of the actual article. So if we go into the TQ workflow article, the first thing you want to do is change the template to workflow default. Once that is done, you need to adjust your HTML a bit to look similar to what you're seeing here, and review your data sources, see if you can eliminate some of your data sources based on what I told you about the grid and component config. Go through your script and see if some of your script is now replaced with functionality in component config. When it comes to the other articles, you're going to need to update these by changing template to AF Bootstrap. And I'd suggest to go through here as well, review if you're using any old controls or custom stuff. We noticed we had some old controls in dialogues, and we had a custom script for validation. So we removed the old controls, we're using the new ones, and we're using Bootstrap validation. In some instances, you might need a reference to a script that's not in the template. And if it's only for this article, you can then reference it directly in the article. To finish off, most of what I just spoken about is available in Docs Omega 365, and you'll find it under the workflow modules. And we've written a small guide about what to do. So short summary of what I just talked about: you update your controls in workflow types. Use an existing workflow as an example, set your layout, add a link to your process diagram if you need to, update your workflow article to set your template to workflow default, update the HTML, review and update client-side script, and the other articles, change template to AF Bootstrap, and review your HTML and client-side script. I'd like to finish off by mentioning that there's also a Windows client application for exporting and importing the workflows. This one is not yet available on web, but this one will allow you to transfer the workflow type and a specific workflow type revision from one site to another. You use the same application in your target site to import the workflow. After you've done such an import, it's important to review the configuration, but particularly check out all the role IDs. If they are different from your origination site and your target site, you're gonna need to update them manually afterwards. I think that's all I had for now, Jonny, and I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, very good and very useful. And it's great to see that you have all this documentation also available, and the tools you made to make the transition into the new version of the engine easier for all the developers. And as you said also, if one needs some help to get the workflows upgraded, that they can contact you for assistance, or some in your team. So I think that would be very, very good. Thank you, Trygve. And this was it for today. Next Friday we will show the highlights from the latest Pims and Appframe updates. So make sure you stay tuned on our channel for next time.
Yeah, and sorry for the bit of delay, 5-6 minutes.
Yeah, that was YouTube's fault.
Yeah, we need to go to the backup server and then swap some. But as you could see, we are in the good preparation of Apped, planning out the future for it.
Yeah, it's not so. It's just it's not many days before the YouTube. No, before the Apped. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Yes. Bye bye.
Thank you, Trygve. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Sånn, det var det. Hva som